Well, today's topic is a serious one. We're talking about the Visa Bulletin, the August 2023 Visa Bulletin, and it's caused a lot of confusion, a lot of pain. A lot of people may not even be aware of how it's going to affect their immigration case, and we're going to dig into this all today. Most people have reached out to me, and the questions come something like this. We had a woman who petitioned for her husband, and she had been waiting a very long time to get an interview. And she finally got a visa interview for her husband. But after the interview, instead of getting the visa approved, which she totally deserved, the case was put into administrative processing. Now, she was only a green card holder. She wasn't a citizen. So her case was subject to the whims of the Visa Bulletin. So she had been waiting and waiting and waiting. And then she found out that the August 2023 Visa Bulletin had retrogressed. And we'll talk about what that means. It basically means that it had gone backwards. And so her case was no longer current. And that meant, and based on the Visa Bulletin, it seemed as if she was going to have to wait another 3 years to get her husband the visa that he deserved. This was something that was very, very upsetting to her. And so she reached out to me with questions about what this means. And I can understand how upsetting that would be to be right at the finish line, to cross the finish line. And then instead of being able to reach your immigration goal, you come to find out that you have to go back 3 years. It almost feels like you're starting over, and it can be really disheartening, and can cause a lot of frustration and anger. And we've had clients who are in this situation, and I'm going to unravel this all for you today. Now, the first thing that you need to know about the Visa Bulletin is that it's completely unpredictable. It goes forward, it goes backward. It does not progress in a linear fashion. It does not go forward at a constant pace. It is completely impossible to predict what will happen in the future. There's no way to say, well, they're on this month, and so a year from now, they're going to be 12 months further, because it may not work that way. We've had cases where for years, the Visa Bulletin has been stuck in the same date, and then suddenly it'll jump forward. Or as you see with the August 2023 Visa Bulletin, it went backwards for 3 years. So that's important to know that. The second point is that in order to be approved for a visa, in order to actually get your visa, you have to be approvable and current at the time that the visa is issued. So if you went to your visa interview and the officer told you, congratulations, your visa is approved, but you didn't get the visa yet, it hasn't been approved and it's still pending, and then your visa is no longer current, you cannot possibly be approved. You can't be approved. And that's very frustrating, because a lot of times when people find out about that, they say, wait a minute, at the time of my interview, it was current. Well, that may be true, but it will not help you get approved, because you have to be current at the time that they issue the visa to you. I know that's discouraging, but my next point is going to be very more optimistic. I expect that the August 2023 Visa Bulletin will show the retrogression to be cured. That is to say, I expect that with the August 2023 Visa Bulletin, all the people who were pushed back seemingly 3 years are going to be current. Now, of course, this is speculation on my part. I told you a minute ago that you couldn't predict the future with the Visa Bulletin, and then here I am trying to do the very same thing. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, but this is what I expect, and I'm actually hoping that, because I am here to help you reach your immigration goal, and nothing stands in the way of your immigration goal worse than being pushed back. The final point that I want to make is not to give up hope. I know it seems very discouraging when your visa is retrogressed, but you should understand that the sudden jump backwards could later be accompanied by a sudden jump forward that could break in your favor. So it's important to take all these changes in stride and understand that it's unpredictable, and that's partly the nature of this sort of work. Um, so today I want to bring in a guest. I'm going to add her. We have Hale here. Why don't you? Can you hear me? Are you with
Yeah,
us?
sure. I
Oh,
can hear you.
fantastic! It's so great to see you.
Thank you. So great to see you as well. Thanks for having me today. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here.
Why
And
don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you do on our Telegram channel and so on?
yeah, sure, of course. I help immigrant applicants on Telegram groups, different groups for marriage visas, for F1, F2B visa, and all other F categories like F3 and F4. And I create some contents that people ask me for that. And I answer their questions daily, and there are a lot of misunderstanding in immigration eras, and I try to clarify some of them and share visa the visa monthly stats and some other information that it's good to know, you know that.
My impression from the working with the Persian community, and I'm so grateful to have a chance to help so many people in the Persian community, is that they're incredibly resourceful. They coordinate and they communicate and they organize and they share data and they talk about things. And I think that's incredible. But it also leads to a lot of misinformation, a lot of myths coming around. And well, let's jump right into it. I know you have a lot of questions for me, and that I think would be a great way to get us started. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, sure, of course. I received many questions for you, Josh. And the first one is that about our today's live topic about the significant retrogression in visa bulletin. And some applicants with F2B visa class, they asked me, what do you recommend for F2B cases? What does the announcement on the NBC website means? Um,
Okay, so let me just see if I understand the question right, and I may not. People who are impacted by retrogression in the F2B category are asking, what should they do? What does it mean?
yes. Yeah.
Okay, if you are in the F2B category and your visa was current in July of 2023, and you've come to find out that the visa bulletin has retrogressed or gone backwards with August 2023, and your visa category is no longer current, what do you need to know? What should you do? First of all, you cannot possibly be approved for a visa if your category and your priority date is not current. That's just the way it is. So the second thing you need to know is that the retrogression is something that you should take in stride. I know it's serious. I know it's discouraging. I know it's upsetting to see the visa bulletin go back 3 years and to look at that and think, oh my God, I was about to get my visa and now I'm going to have to wait 3 more years. You should take a deep breath, relax, and imagine a calm blue ocean, because this may not be the case. And as I said earlier, I believe that with the August 2023 visa bulletin, the retrogression will effectively be cured and it will lurch forward and these cases will become current again. I don't think it's going to be a 3-year wait. Of course, this is speculation on my part. I could be completely wrong. I hope I'm not. But stay with me, because I think October will be a very good month for people in these retrogression categories like F2B.
Oh, that's a good news. And if their petition became a citizen, do you recommend them to convert their cases to F1 or or stay in F2B?
So if I understand the question correctly, should someone convert a case from F2B to an immediate relative case? Okay, this is a great question. If you are a permanent resident of the US and you have filed a petition for a family member, like a spouse, husband or wife, and you apply for naturalization and you get approved for naturalization, one of the questions that people ask is, should you convert your visa case from a preference category like F2B to an immediate relative petition? Should you do that, or should you stay in the preference category? Well, by operation of law, your case is converted from a preference category to an immediate relative petition. It is converted. It's not something that you can choose to do or not do. It is done by operation of law. And typically, this is a good thing, but not always. And let me give you an example. We had a client, a very dear client, someone who was very close to my heart. And he had a number of family members, children, and he was petitioning for his wife, okay? And he also applied for naturalization. Well, if he had actually been approved for naturalization, had been sworn in and became a naturalized US citizen, it would have been an absolute disaster for him and his family. Why is that? Because a preference petition includes derivative beneficiaries in the same case. A US citizen has to file separate visa petitions for each family member. Let me break that down. If you don't know what you're doing, and you don't have an immigration lawyer, and you just apply for naturalization because you think naturalization is better than a green card, which it generally is, you could be in a dangerous situation, get very hurt by this. Because if you were to file a petition for your wife and you had 6 kids, they would all be included in the same case. But a US citizen would have to file one visa petition for his wife and a separate visa petition for every derivative child. A separate visa petition.
Oh
So if you don't know what you're doing, then you just apply for naturalization and suddenly your wife gets approved, but all your children are left behind. And it was very difficult for me to persuade him of this. I was like, dude, you cannot become a US citizen. Don't do it. Don't do it. You can't. Don't go to the oath ceremony. Don't do it. Because as soon as he does it, his case is destroyed. He followed my advice. We got his entire family to the United States using a writ of mandamus lawsuit. And as soon as his family came to the US, I said, my friend, now you can become a US citizen. Then he became a US citizen. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but it is the basic bottom line is that conversion of a preference petition to an immediate relative case is done automatically when you become a US citizen. It's not something that you can choose to do or not choose to do, okay?
Yeah, sounds perfect. Actually, it was a great point, and it's great to know that because many people think that, for example, in this scenario, F1 has a higher priority than F2B, and they make it interview faster. And the point you mentioned is we should keep that in our mind. Yeah, sounds perfect. Okay,
Yeah, and by the way, I want to take a moment to welcome all of our friends from YouTube and everywhere else who are joining today. We have Amar Rashad, our friend from YouTube, and I want to take a couple questions. He says, how do I know if my visa is current in the visa bulletin? I think that's a great question. because the visa bulletin is very complicated. And when I explain the visa bulletin to people, I say to them, if this seems like it makes no sense, then you probably are correctly understanding it, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. The U.S. immigration system is absurd, and you have to keep that in mind. Essentially, the State Department publishes a visa bulletin each month, and you need to check the visa bulletin, and there are several factors that determine whether your case is current. The first is the priority date. The priority date is essentially the date that you filed your visa petition. The second is you check your country of chargeability. It's essentially the country that you're from or the country you were born in. Now, you'll notice in the visa bulletin, there's one section for Chinese, another section for Mexicans, a third section for Filipinos, and another section for Indians. And then you have the rest of the world is in a separate category. Now, why does our immigration system make people from China, the Philippines, India, or Mexico wait so much longer? Why is that? Well, I don't know. That's just the way the system is. That's the way Congress set it up. I didn't set up the system. It doesn't make any sense to me. If I were in charge of the immigration system, I would give everyone with an engineering degree an automatic green card. But they would never let me do that. So that's not the way it works. But basically, you look at your priority date, the date you filed. You look at your country of chargeability. And then you line that up with the category of your visa. And the category of your visa could change, for example, as we discussed earlier. If your case was based on a green card petitioner and then the petitioner becomes a U.S. citizen, it could be a different type of case. Or it could change based on the age of the beneficiary and many other factors. So you look at all those, and then you determine whether your case is current, whether the visa bulletin has reached your category based on those factors. I think of the visa bulletin as sort of like if you've ever been to a deli, and you remember the old delis, you would come in and there'd be a sandwich counter, and you would go and you would grab a ticket, and then they would call the ticket number. Essentially, you're waiting in a long line for them to call your ticket number. That's the best analogy that I can think of for how to wrap your mind around this. So to go back to your question about whether your visa category is current, I would need to know what country you're charged with, where are you from, I would need to know your priority date, and I would need to know your case type. If I had all those factors, I could go online and I could look at the visa bulletin and I could tell you whether your case is current. Now, in my office, we have a team of people that handles inquiries from prospective new clients. And every member of our team is trained on how to look at the visa bulletin and how to determine whether someone's case is current or not, because that determines whether we can help someone. Anyway, Halle, let's go to some more questions.
Yeah, sure. But before that, let me translate them for
Sure.
sure. دوستان چند تا سوال از آقای جاش پرسیدیم. سوال اول در مورد تأثیری هستش که ویزا بولتن روی کاتگوری F2B گذاشته و ایشون گفتن که ویزا بولتن برای ماهای آینده قاعدتا قابل پیش بینی نیست، چون طبق تجربه‌ای که توی گذشته داریم بعضی از ماها ویزا بولتن جلو میره ولی بعضی از ماها استاپ میشه. گاهی اوقات هم مثل ماه آگوست میبینیم که به مدت 3 سال ویزا بولتن عقب افتاده. به همین خاطر به طور کلی جواب درست این هستش که ما نمیتونیم پیش بینی کنیم که ویزا بولتن برای هر کاتگوری قرار هست به چه شکلی پیش بره. ولی با توجه به اطلاعی که توی سایت NVC گذاشته شده ایشون فکر میکنن که توی ماه اکتبر ممکنه که پیشرفتی توی این زمینه باشه و بهتره که شما برای F2B سریعتر اقدام بکنید. اگر کیستون به تأخیر خورده مندیمس فال کنید و اگر گزینه‌های دیگه مثل اکسپدایت هست هم استفاده کنید که بتونید از این فرصت استفاده کنید، چون در هر صورت ویزا بولتن قابل پیش بینی نیست و ممکنه که یک پسرفتی هم برای کیس های F2B دیده بشه. و سوال بعدی که پرسیده شد این هست که من چطوری متوجه بشم کیس من کارن شده. شما طبق جدول اول ویزا بولتن باید نشنالیتیتون و پرایورتی دیتتون رو مقایسه کنید، ببینید که به اون تاریخ رسیده یا نه. اگر رسیده بود کیس شما کارن هست، اگر نه هنوز کارن نشده. Okay, sounds perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much for reaching out and communicating in Farsi, and I want to welcome everyone who's watching from Iran or from the Persian community. And I also want to welcome Very Bad Dog. I love this name. And he said, I'd love to have a consultation, but josh.law doesn't seem to be working for me. Are there other ways to get in touch with you by email? Absolutely. I'm going to put my email address on the screen here. If you need help or have a question, send me an email. And when you do, put your phone number in it, put your name, and include a brief description of your case, what you need help with. And the more details you share with me, the easier it is for me to figure out how I can best help you. And I very much look forward to hearing you. Sometimes people also put comments and say, what's your phone number? How can I reach you? And the phone number is right above my head, 213-262-2000. If you call that number, we can set up a meeting with you and try to help you out from there. Let's see. Let's go to some more questions.
Sure.
Hallie, what do you got for me?
Yeah, of course. I received a question. It says, I'm waiting for marriage visa. My husband is an American citizen. My father is retired from SEPA. Do you think the officer may reject my visa for this reason?
Okay, so let me see if I understand this question. This person is in Iran. Her husband is a US citizen. Her husband is going to petition for her, and she's concerned about her father's SEPA membership.
That's correct.
Okay. One of the big concerns that people have if you're from Iran and you're going through the immigration process is SEPA. In English, we call this the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is a division of the Iranian military. I understand that Iran has compulsory military service. People don't choose whether or not they want to go into the military, as in the US. You must go in the military unless you have some sort of exemption. And furthermore, I understand that people in Iran, they may not have any choice about whether they serve in SEPA. So it is cruel that the immigration system in the US so harshly penalizes people who've been members of SEPA. My understanding, and I've done many videos on this, is that membership in SEPA in any way, in any form, in any connection to SEPA directly, will result in the effective denial of a visa application. Whether there's a waiver for this is unclear to me. My office doesn't handle these. It's the only thing I can do is express my my solidarity with you, my sympathy, my empathy, and but there's nothing that I can do to help someone who served in SEPA get a visa to the US when they're otherwise not eligible. Now, specifically, the question that you asked me was whether the daughter of someone who served in SEPA could get a visa to the US through a marriage petition. And my answer to that is yes. I don't see any reason at all why having a family member, even your father who served in SEPA, would disqualify or otherwise call into question the eligibility of a visa from an actual daughter. Because keep in mind that the daughter herself didn't serve in SEPA. Women don't serve in the Iranian military. So I don't see any problem for this person.
Oh, sounds perfect because she's concerned about that. Sounds
Yeah.
great.
Would you like to
And
translate that?
yeah, sure. دوست عزیزی پرسیدن که کیسشون ازدواج هستش و همسرشون سیتیزن امریکا هستن و پدر این خانوم توی سپاه خدمت کرده بودن و بازنشسته شدن. آیا ممکن هستش که ویزای ایشون به دلیل سربازی پدرشون ریجکت بشه؟ آقای جوش توضیح دادن که برای کسی که سپاه خدمت کردن در حال حاضر امکانی برای ورود به امریکا نیست، ولی کسی که پدری سپاه بوده ارتباطی به کیس خودش نداره و هیچ مسئله برای ایشون نمیبینن و این خانم که اپلیکنت هستن میتونن که به راحتی ویزاشون رو بگیرن. یعنی در واقع کیس پدرشون تاثیر روی کیس ایشون نداره. That's great. Let's go to the next question.
Let's do it.
Okay. I received that an applicant with IR1 case asked us, we just received documentary qualified email. How long does it take to get the interview? Is there any way to get interview sooner?
Okay, so again, let me see if I understand this question. Someone just received notice from the National Visa Center that their case was documentarily qualified. The question is, when will they get an interview? Is there anything that they can do to expedite the process of getting an interview? Let me explore that. So when you apply for when you're going through the visa application process, there are essentially 3 steps. The first is a visa petition with the USCIS, an I-130, something like this. After that's approved, it goes to the National Visa Center of the State Department. It usually takes about 6 months to go through a process where you're submitting forms and fees and information. And once you do that and you've satisfied all the requirements with the National Visa Center, they send you notification that your case is documentarily qualified. You've completed the processing at the National Visa Center. The third and final step is the completion of an interview at an embassy or consulate abroad. And the question that this person is asking is, when will the interview take place? And the second question is there any way to expedite it? And essentially, there is absolutely no way to predict when the interview will be. It depends on many factors, including which visa category type you have, which consulate you're at, what is going on in the particular country that you're applying in, or and many other factors. And there's no data or publicly available information that you can use to figure out when they're going to get around to interviewing you. You are just subject to the whims of the immigration system. But something that you should know, unfortunately, is that it takes a very long time to get an interview in most places. And the second part of the question is, what, if anything, can you do about it? And that is where our work comes into play. My office helps people whose immigration cases are unreasonably delayed. If you've been waiting and waiting and waiting for an extremely long period of time, and your case is not being processed in any kind of reasonable time period, you can go to court and file a lawsuit called a writ of mandamus lawsuit. You can actually challenge the delay in processing your case. And we often help people who have gotten notice that they're documentarily qualified, but then they never seem to get an interview date. And so what we do is we go ahead and we sue the National Visa Center, we sue consulates, we sue embassies, we sue other immigration agencies, the State Department, USCIS, and we challenge these sorts of delays. The other thing you can do is you can request that your case be expedited. And I'm not a huge fan of expedite requests because it sounds great. It's free. And it also, it's exactly what you want. You want it to be expedited. Most people, almost everyone, doesn't want a lawsuit. You just want to get your visa. You want to get things processed quickly. The problem is that expedite requests are rarely granted. But the only thing there's no filing fee associated with expedite requests. All you have to do is devote the time and energy to it. But an expedite request, waiting, and considering a mandamus lawsuit are three things that you can do to challenge a delay in the scheduling of your interview.
Oh, sounds perfect. And is there any minimum or maximum about the waiting time for interview? How they can recognize if they are qualified for filing mandamus for getting an interview?
That's a great question. So, how long is too long? If your case is documentarily qualified and you're waiting for an interview for your visa, how do you know when it's taken so long that you should consider filing a writ of mandamus lawsuit? Well, that is a very interesting question. It's a very challenging it's challenging to answer the question because this is decided on a case-by-case basis based on a number of factors, not just the passage of time. There is no rule regarding when they have to schedule your interview, and there's no definition precisely of what constitutes a reasonable delay and what constitutes an unreasonable delay. To give you an example, in another context, we had a delayed asylum application. Someone had been waiting 3.5 years for an asylum interview, and we just got a motion to dismiss where the immigration agency said that a 3.5 year wait was very reasonable to them. Or not very reasonable, but it's not unreasonable. So to go back to the question, I think that I would like to see someone who's been documentarily qualified, who's waited at least 6 or 8 months and hasn't gotten an interview yet. And then at that point, what I would do to evaluate whether someone has a strong case, possibly for mandamus, is I would want to know a lot more about how the delay is impacting your life. What is going on? Are there someone who's being deprived of, who has health issues? Is it impacting you financially? Are you losing job opportunities? Is it disconnecting children or family members from each other? I would want to know a lot about how that's being played out before I could tell you, yes, this is going to be a good case for mandamus or not. And let me tell you this. The only cases that our office takes on for mandamus or anything else are cases that we believe have merit, cases that we believe qualify for representation and have a strong likelihood of success, or we make sure that this is all very much in our client's interests.
Yeah, sounds great. And you guys have a link. We have a mandamus qualification quiz at jgoldlaw.com. And you can take the quiz and tell us about your case to see if you are qualified for filing the mandamus. Okay,
That's right. If anyone is interested in or wants our help on any kind of an immigration case, we offer a free case evaluation with our amazing team. There's a link on our website, which is, I'll put it in the comments. Just go to our website here on a second. Here we go. Just go to our website and you'll find a link on our homepage where you can answer a few questions. And if you qualify, you'll be invited for a free case evaluation with our team. And we help people in all 50 states and around the world. So no matter where you're located, as long as you have a phone or an internet connection, you can connect with our team and our firm and we can help you. We've had people who've hired us from refugee camps in Africa. We've had people who hire us in Los Angeles, New York, all across the country, Alaska, you name it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Josh. Let me translate that. یکی از دوستان با کیس IR1 پرسیده بودن که من ایمیل داکیومنتری کوالیفاید یا DQ رو اصطلاحاً دریافت کردم، چقدر زمان میبره که وقت مصاحبه بگیرم. آقای جاش گفتن اینکه شما چه زمانی وقت اینترویو میگیرین بستگی به فاکتورهای مختلفی داره، مثل اینکه در واقع کاتگوری شما چی هست، کدوم کشور هستین و فاکتورهای متعدد دیگه. به همین خاطر قابل پیش بینی نیست که دقیقاً چقدر زمان میبره که به شما نوبت مصاحبه بدن. و در واقع اینکه برای اینکه چطور میتونی زودتر وقت اینترویو بگیری چند تا گزینه وجود داره که اولیش و راه حلی رو که آقای جاش پیشنهاد میدن رید آف مندیمس هست. شما اگر که برای مدت زیادی هست که منتظر وقت مصاحبه هستین میتونید درخواست بدین که لاسود مندیمس براتون تکمیل بشه و بتونید از این طریق وقت مصاحبهش سریعتر بگیرید. اینکه چه زمانی کافی هستش باز هم بستگی داره به شرایط کیس‌های مختلف، ولی به طور کلی ایشون فکر میکنن که حداقل 6 تا 8 ماه زمان لازم هستش که شما صبر کنید تا وقت مصاحبه بگیرین. اگر نگرفتین داخل سایت jgoldlaw.com یک بخش وجود داره تحت عنوان Tell us about your case. شما میتونین شرایط کیستون رو اونجا اعلام کنید، تاریخ پرایوریتی دی، داکیومنتری کوالیفاید رو ذکر بکنید. به علاوه اینکه اگر هاردشیپ دارین، یعنی یه سری مشکلات برای شما پیش اومده به خاطر تاخیر در دریافت اینترویو، اونها رو هم ذکر کنید، مثل اینکه یک فرصت کاری رو از دست دادین یا اینکه از فرزندان یا همسرتون دور هستین. با توجه به اون شرایط و تاریخ‌های پرونده، تیم حقوقی آقای جاش به شما میگن که آیا شما کوالیفای هستین که بتونین سریعتر وقت مصاحبه بگیرین یا باید منتظر باشین. گزینه دوم اکسپدایت هست که ایشون خیلی پیشنهاد نمی کنن، هرچند که به نظر میاد چون رایگان هست و سریع هست خب امتحان میتونید بکنید، ولی خیلی از اوقات اکسپدایت کار نمیکنه و حتی یکی از کلاینت ها اخیراً کنسری پیشرفته داشتن و اکسپدایت کردن ولی متاسفانه اکسپدایتشون رو قبول نکردن. این هستش که گزینه‌ای که بیشتر از همه افکتیو هست و کاربرد داره مندیمس هستش. با توجه به آدرسی که بالا هست josh.law یا jgoldlaw.com شما میتونید وارد سایت بشین و کویز کوالیفیکیشن برای مندیمس رو پر کنید. Okay, that's great.
Thank you for translating.
Sure.
So I want to say something. I want to give a little shout out to my friend Sanad, who he posted some comments on our YouTube channel. Sanad, I already got your email and I've already reached out to my team. I agree that you have a strong case. It looks like you have a very good case where we could help you out, and I'm really looking forward to it. And he lives in Tennessee, and we have many clients in that state. We've helped people. So Sanad, help is on the way. Thank you for reaching out. We got it. I want to thank everybody else on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else who's joining us today. I'm really excited to be here and to answer your questions, and I'm going to go through and try to answer them. But before we do that, Hale, why don't you tell me what other questions you have?
Yeah, sure. The next question is that my joint sponsor got married 1.5 year after my case got the Q email, and she still has enough income to be my sponsor. Should I share this with the officer at the interview?
So, to clarify, this question concerns an affidavit of support. And somebody served as a joint sponsor and then they got married, but their income stayed the same, right?
Yes.
They're wondering whether they should provide additional information on that. Okay. If you have a joint sponsor and the joint sponsor submitted an affidavit of support, and then the joint sponsor gets married, but their income is sufficient, should you provide updated information at your interview? Well, the answer to that is, first of all, it's very difficult to give you a general answer because it's very case specific. But one rule that I like to follow is I typically, generally, provide information to immigration when requested. So I don't run around thinking, what new information can I give to immigration? I respond to their requests specifically for information. That's one general rule. The second is that the affidavit of support is typically adjudicated earlier in the case process and not at the interview. You have to have an approvable affidavit of support. And if you don't, you need a joint sponsor. And if your joint sponsor's income changes or no longer becomes eligible to sponsor you, then you have to find a different joint sponsor or do something else. But typically, being married would not disqualify a joint sponsor. It wouldn't have any impact. As long as the person's income is sufficient, you're good to go.
اوکی پرفکت. دوست عزیزی پرسیدن که بعد از اینکه ایشون داکیومنتری کوالیفاید شده کیسشون 1.5 سال بعد جوینت اسپانسر ازدواج میکنن ولی همچنان درآمدشون برای اسپانسرشیپ کافی هستش. آیا ایشون روز مصاحبه باید به آفیسر بگن که جوینت اسپانسرشون ازدواج کرده یا نیازی نیست؟ آقای جاش گفتن که این برای پاسخ به این سوال باید شرایط دیگه کیس رو هم ازش اطلاع داشته باشن که بتونن جواب دقیق بدن، ولی به طور کلی پیشنهاد ایشون این هستش که تا زمانی که اطلاعات بیشتر از شما درخواست نکردن اطلاعات بیشتر بهشون ندین. اگر از شما پرسیدن شما میتونید اطلاعات تکمیلی ارائه کنید، ولی توی این سناریو که درسته وضعیت تعهل اسپانسر عوض شده ولی همچنان شما دارین میگین که تمکن مالیشون برای اسپانسری شما کافی هستش، پس نیازی نیستش که به آفیسر اطلاعات بیشتری رو بدین. Sounds great. And next question. My husband and I are citizens and residents of Canada. I got green card with IR5 case, but my husband who served in SEPA refused by 221G. Our son is getting married in October. Can my husband come to the US with Canadian passport for the wedding ceremony?
So if I understand this correctly, the question is, can someone who's a member of SEPA come to the U.S. As a visitor?
Yes, because he is citizen of Canada.
Mm-hmm. So if you are a member of SEPA, which is in English the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a specific division of the Iranian military, my understanding is that unfortunately you're disqualified from obtaining a visa. If you are also Canadian, but you formerly served as a member of SEPA, could you come in as a visitor as a Canadian? I don't know the answer to that question. I guess you could find out when you get here. Um, how would they know that you served in SEPA when you come in? I really don't know that they would. But I guess the question that I would have is, if you're going to attempt to come in, you should probably do so in a way that the denial of your entry would be least inconvenient. So what I'm thinking is making sure you don't have a connecting flight, or that perhaps you drive or something, because if you're turned away and you have flown internationally and you don't have a place to go, it could be a real headache. So I wish you all the best. And also, if you're coming in for the purposes of attending a wedding, and it's your daughter's wedding, something like that, well, let me suggest possibly having the wedding in a different country, a country where you're not going to face these problems. If you live in Canada, perhaps you could have your wedding in Canada. I'm not in the wedding planning business, but as a practical matter, it seems like if you have this obstacle that's preventing you from reaching your immigration goals in the US, and you're planning a wedding in the US for your child, then you have to consider the cost of doing so is that it may be a wedding that you can't attend.
Yeah, I know. That's very unfair because this.
A lot of aspects of the US immigration system are unfair.
Yeah, it's so
It
sad.
really is.
Yeah,
And part of my job as an immigration lawyer is communicating very unfair results or information to people. And sometimes they get very mad at me, and that's frustrating, but um, it's the
yeah,
nature of the work. The immigration system in the US is absurd and cruel and unfair. And I wish it weren't that way.
yeah, I hope so. Okay, دوست عزیزی پرسیدن که ایشون و همسرشون سیتیزن و مقیم کانادا هستن و ایشون تونستن از طریق کیس IR5 ویزاشون رو بگیرن، گرین کارت رو بگیرن، ولی همسرشون چون توی سپاه خدمت کردن قاعدتا امکان ورود به امریکا رو ندارن. سوالی که پرسیدن این هستش که با توجه به اینکه ایشون سیتیزن کانادا هستن، آیا برای مراسم ازدواج پسرشون میتونن بیان امریکا یا نه؟ آقای جاش توضیح دادن که خیلی دقیق نمیتونن به این سوال جواب بدن، اینکه توی لحظه ورودشون این موضوع چک میشه یا نه. احتمالاً چک میشه و بهشون اجازه نمیدن، ولی باز هم 100% نیست. میتونن که ترای کنن، ولی به طور کلی هر شخصی که سپاه خدمت کرده اجازه ورود به امریکا رو نداره. ولی حالا اینکه اون آفیسر که در واقع پاسپورت کانادایی رو چک میکنن این موضوع رو هم توی سیستم بزنن یا نه، خیلی دقیق الان قابل پیش بینی نیست. و اینکه شما اگر براتون مقدور هستش شاید بتونین مراسم ازدواج رو توی کانادا بگیرین که پدرشون هم بتونن که توی مراسم شرکت کنن. Okay, sounds perfect. And as you know, I just get married. And
Wait, hold on. You got married, or you're engaged?
I got married.
You got married?
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you so much. Yeah, and I can help her about the wedding planning.
Yeah, I am very much not skilled at planning weddings, and but an important point, I think, is that your immigration plans and your wedding plans should not be connected. Obviously, a lot of times immigration is based on marriage, but that's not the same as a wedding. You can go to City Hall and you can get married, legally married, and then you can plan a wedding in a different way. Where people run into problems is where their immigration case is connected to marriage and the wedding is connected to immigration. That takes two stressful things that are hard to plan and connects them. And that's where the tears start flowing. You end up having a wedding you can't come to, you can't attend, or someone goes to a different wedding and they get stuck abroad. There's a destination wedding where they don't have the ability to travel, and it all leads to a lot of stress. And it's very unnecessary. It's very unnecessary. Don't create stress for yourself. Seems like good common sense.
Yeah, that's great. دوستان آقای جاش میگن که چون خیلی از کیس ازدواج هسته، شما میتونید که برید سیتی هال و عقد کنید و بهتره که مراسم ازدواجتون رو کانکت نکنید به مهاجرتتون، چون میتونه که واقعا خیلی چالشی باشه و شما نتونید به مراسمتون برسید. You know, immigrant applicants have a lot of problems and challenges in this regard. I was waiting for my US visa for 11 years, and my case was F2B, and then I converted to F1. So I had to be single for 11 years, and it was unfair. And that's why
I'm glad. First of all, congratulations again on getting married, and also congratulations on reaching your immigration goals. And it's something that takes a certain mindset. If you're trying to reach your immigration goal, you have to have a real determination, and you have to have the ability to tolerate a lot of setbacks and a lot of waiting and a lot of unfairness. And you have to understand that you're working towards an important goal, and sometimes it's not easy. It's a real struggle. But I do everything I can to help people and also to inspire them, because you are an example of how you can reach your immigration goal. It might take you 10 years. It might take you more than 10 years, but you can do it, and don't give up. And aren't you glad that you persisted?
Yes, I'm so happy for that. It was so hard for me and for my family. You know, all of my family involved in this hardship. And it was so unfair, but it's worth it. I'm totally happy. And that's why I love to help people in this regard. Okay, do we have time for a couple questions?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. Someone asked us, I got my US visa. Can my petitioner travel to Iran before I travel to the US, or she must be in the US?
So the question, let's see if I understand this correctly. This is a marriage-based case, maybe?
It's F2B case.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the petitioner, someone got a visa approved, and they want to know if they can come to the US.
Yeah, you know that he got his visa, but he wants to travel to the US in 2-3 months, and the petitioner wants to travel to Iran in the meantime. Is it risky, or the petitioner should stay in the US until he traveled to the US, entered to the US?
So it seems like the presumption from the question is, does the person who have the visa have to travel to the US with the petitioner, or can they travel separately?
Yeah, you know that the applicant who got his visa, he planned to travel to the US in next 2 months.
Okay.
But the petitioner wants to travel to Iran in the meantime.
Okay.
Is it risky for him?
Okay, I understand the question. So if you've been waiting and you finally get your visa approved and you're ready to travel to the US, you may be wondering whether it's risky if the person who petitioned for you is not traveling with you together, or is leaving the US to travel to another country and is not going to be there when you arrive. would that be risky? Would it cause the immigration officer to become skeptical of your case? And the answer is absolutely not. Once your visa is approved, there's no requirement that you have to travel on the same flight or in the same way with the person who petitioned for you. And there's also no requirement that when you get to the US, you have to be physically with the person who petitioned for you. That person could travel to another country at the same time. So that's not a requirement at all.
Oh, okay, sounds good because he was worried about the domicile. Maybe they check the domicile of the petitioner at the time of entrance in the airport, or no?
So now that's a different question. Does the petitioner live in the US? The petitioner must live in the US, actually live in the US 100% of the time. So if the question is about domicile, that's quite different. Then domicile, if the person's not living in the US, they're not eligible to petition, to file a visa petition.
Yeah, because the petitioner got a white pass and their domicile is not strong, and
well, it's not whether the domicile is strong. So let me carry on for a moment. One of the requirements for a successful immigration case based on a visa petition is that the person who files the visa petition must be domiciled in the US, must live in the US, physically live in the US. And the way to prove that is very simple. You can show that you have a house or you have an apartment, that you're registered to vote, that you have a job, that you have a car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're not living in the US, then you're not eligible to be approved. And that's it. It's not whether you have a strong domicile case. It's whether you're actually, in fact, domiciled in the US. If you're not living in the US, you're not eligible.
Oh, okay. So in this case, the petitioner can travel to Iran before he entered the US, right?
Well, now I'm starting to second guess the question, because the question was not travel to the US. I suspect that if we had this person on the show right now and we began asking this person some questions, they're not just traveling, they're probably living outside the US. That's what I suspect. And they're probably traveling very frequently or spending large blocks of time outside the US in a way that would call into question where they live. It should be very easy to figure out where you live. You live in the US. Here's your car. Here's your job. Here's your driver's license. Here's your registration to vote. This is your life. Your life is in the US. But I suspect that what's really going on here is not the travel. The person is not living in the US and they're violating the domicile requirement. That's what I'm guessing based on the nature of these questions, because that's what I think is going on. What do you think, Hala?
Yeah, because many Iranian mothers cannot tolerate far away of their family for years, and they get a white pass and come and travel, live 2 months in the US and then 6 months in Iran, 1 year in Iran, 2 months in the US. So they're concerned about the domicile, and the person who is my friend asked about this. Okay, do you recommend to tell my petitioner it will be in the US until I enter the US, or she can travel, come and go,
Well, if you have a green card and you're not actually living in the US, you're just pretending to live in the US by coming in every so often, you're playing a dangerous game. And you should understand that the consequences are going to be that you're going to lose your green card, and you're going to do it in a very painful way, where you get stopped at the airport, you get interrogated, and eventually they put you in deportation proceedings, which is called abandonment. And when I tell people about this, they're astonished and they think, oh my God, really? My mother could be deported and could have to go through all that? That's crazy. I know all these people that go back and forth all the time. They're no problem. Why are you telling me that this is going to be a problem? Well, going back and forth and pretending you live in the US when you have a green card, it works well until it doesn't. And when it doesn't work well, that's when the tears start flowing and that's when the problems start. If you have a green card, you have to live in the US. It's a simple rule. That's simple.
Yeah, it's simple, but I see some relatives in my family. They got their citizenship after 13 years because they got white pass and they faced many problems. Yeah. دوست عزیزی پرسیدن که ایشون ویزای F2B رو گرفتن و میخوان بدونن که آیا پتیشنر میتونه بیاد ایران قبل از اینکه ایشون وارد امریکا بشن. آقای جاش گفتن که در حالت عادی مشکلی نیستش که وقتی شما ویزاتون رو گرفتین پتیشنر بتونه سفر بکنه به یک کشوری دیگه مثل ایران. ولی اگر که دامستایل ایشون مشکل داره، یعنی اینکه ایشون همش توی رفت آمد بوده به ایران و امریکا، توصیه نمیشه این کار. به طور کلی اینکه شخصی وانمود کنه داره توی امریکا زندگی میکنه ولی در واقع بلاک های از زمان رو توی کشور دیگه زندگی کرده و به طور کلی پیشنهاد میشه که در واقع توی امریکا پتیشنر زندگی بکنه که هم برای سیتیزنشیپ خودشون مسئله پیش نیاد و همین که دامسالشون برای کسی رو که براشون درخواست دادن درست باشه. Okay, perfect. And,
more questions, please.
Sure. I have a bunch of questions.
Keep them coming.
Okay, sure. The next question is that.
Pardon me, just 1 second. There's one comment I wanted to get to. Ian Johnson, congratulations on your wedding. He is a very fortunate man. That is our goal as well. I think that's a very, very nice that he was congratulatory. But I wanted, Ian, I wanted to respond to your question. You say that's your goal as well, but we're stuck in AP because of her advanced science degree and a career in a similar field. You should know that if you're eligible to get approved for a visa and your visa is an administrative processing, you've completed the interview and for some reason you go to UNSTUCK and it says refuse, but you have been stuck and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, you should contact our office. We are extremely good at helping people get administrative processing cleared up and getting the visa that you deserve approved and in your hands. We do this using techniques that we're the industry leader for, and we do it by challenging these delays and getting the visas resolved, and we offer free case evaluation. So if you would be curious and you'd like information about how we can help you, I hope you reach out to us. The phone number's above. You can also email me, and if you have a delayed visa like that, I want you to email me, and I want you to say in the email subject, no more waiting. No more waiting. Because here at Immigration Station, this immigration YouTube channel that I created, we believe that waiting leads to more waiting. Waiting does not solve immigration problems. It often leads to more waiting. And immigration, USCIS and the State Department, they're not getting any better at processing immigration cases. In fact, they're getting worse. So reach out to us.
Perfect. Could you please share the Telegram ID as well? Because guys, we have.
Can you message me the Telegram ID?
Yeah, sure. It's visas for Iranians.
Can you message it to me?
Sure.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
Here you are.
Here we go.
You
Yes.
can follow
So
our channel. Go ahead.
if you are on Telegram and you are from Iran or you're Persian, I want you to know that we have a Telegram group, and you can find it. Here's the title of the Telegram group, and you can join it. And there's amazing content that you'll be able to access there.
Perfect. دوستان عزیز، اگر فارسی زبان هستین هر جای دنیا که هستین میتونین که اطلاعاتی رو از کانال تلگرام ما دریافت کنید. The ID هستش Visas for Iranians. شما میتونید توی تلگرام سرچ کنید و در جریان اخبار جدید ایمیگریشن، NBC، USCIS باشین. سوالاتتون رو بپرسین، پاسخاتون رو اونجا دریافت بکنید. Okay, sounds great. And you know, Josh, when I answer the applicant questions, some of them, their case are not current yet. And they ask, okay, what about my case? I cannot do mandamus. I cannot do expedite. What is the solution for my case in this stage? Is there any way or any solution for them?
If you have a visa case and suddenly because of retrogression, your visa is not current, or maybe your visa case has not yet become current, what can you do? You may be looking at a very long wait or a lot of uncertainty, and you may want to know what you can do. And I have a few ideas on that. First, you have to have the right mindset. And unfortunately, the way the system of immigration works in the United States, you have to have a visa for a priority date that is current in the visa bulletin before you can possibly be approved. You have to accept that. That's just the nature of the system. You have to know that there's a degree of uncertainty that goes along with when your case will become current. If you look at the visa bulletin, you try to predict when it will become current, then you're going to drive yourself insane, because you may think, oh my God, my case is not going to become current for 9 more years. Well, it could be a lot less time, or it could be a lot longer, because there's a degree of uncertainty that goes into this. One more thing that I think you should know, which is when your case does become current, you should consider mandamus if your case continues to be delayed. We have a lot of people who have approvable immigration cases that deserve to be approved, and they've been waiting and they've been waiting. And when we talk to them about mandamus, they think of all sorts of reasons why they can't take action and go and get their visas with the help of mandamus. Oh, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to give it more time. I'm going to wait until this summer's over. I'm going to wait until a little longer. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to, this and that. And they're very passive.
Yeah.
This is a huge mistake. If your immigration case is stuck and it's approvable, you need to take action immediately. We've talked about this in other videos, but there's all sorts of uncertainty in this world. Embassies close. Wars break out. We have an election in 2024. If Donald Trump or a Republican gets elected by January 2025, I don't think any visa from any country will be issued for a long time. And this is not me being pessimistic. This is me lighting a fire underneath your behind to try to kick you into action so that you can reach your immigration goals. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. This is all the time that we have, and we'll be back soon.